This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Global superstar and comedy sensation Kevin Hart returns for his 5th Netflix special, Acting My Age.
I'm not the same man that I used to be. I go down the stairs sideways. Go ahead, you in a rush? Go around.
With a fresh perspective on life, family, and getting older.
Older you get, the less you can have. Is it sesame seeds on that bun? Get it out of here!
Kevin's bringing his signature high-energy humor and physical comedy in a true return to his stand-up origins. Watch Kevin Hart, Acting My Age, now streaming only on Netflix.
When it comes to gifting, everyone on your list deserves something special. Luckily, Marshall's buyers travel far and wide, hustling for great deals and amazing gifts, so you don't have to. That means your mom gets that cashmere sweater, your best friend, that Italian leather bag, your coworkers unwrap their favorite beauty brands, and your nephews, the coolest new toys. Go ahead, at prices this good, you can grab something for yourself too. Marshalls, we get the deals, you gift the good stuff. Shop now at marshalls.com or find a store near you.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. A great lineup for you tonight, and here's what you'll learn on tonight's program. Singlehood, living alone. It's not just a box you check, but a journey that changes. How people feel about their singlehood evolves over time. So why do some long-term singles feel stuck while others grow more satisfied? And what does wanting a relationship really do to you when you don't have one over time? There's some interesting science and a study behind all this, and we'll give you answers to some of those questions I raised in about 10 minutes' time. And at the beginning of the next hour, here's an interesting topic we'll cover that involves your nose. People can feel your dominance, but can they smell it? New research says yes, your BO might be broadcasting your power status without you knowing. So we'll explore the strange science of testosterone, sweat, and social dominance. All right, that's some of what you'll learn on tonight's show, but let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And we are joined here in New York for a lovely evening, the final evening in person with our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, a Brit who has visited Canada, Toronto. He did not go up the Seattle Space Needle, or as some people call it, the CN Tower. And now we are back in where I live. Tony Five is his name. Tony, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Hey, I'm talking here. I'm back in New York City, having been in Toronto.
Wow, you can speak Canadian English and American English.
Thank you very much. I am bisexual, as you know. And fantastic time. Canada, amazing. Had a great time. Couldn't go up the Space Needle. Couldn't see the bay leaves. But I will come back. I think I'd like to come back in March or April. I still have my fantasy tourist idea, which is like this dream of living with a female Mountie.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were bi. Never mind.
Well, yeah, in Toronto somewhere, by Lake Titicaca, is it?
No, that's in South America.
Well, whatever. Give or take. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I met the most amazing people. I love your hometown, and I love your adopted hometown.
You met a lot of people we work with on the show. One person who's on our podcast only, Dan Riskin, Science Man. He heard you on the show the other night. We were talking about meeting the former mayor of Toronto.
Okay.
He was jealous. For those who don't know Dan Riskin, he used to host a show called Daily Planet. And I think the best part about meeting with him is he came to our dinner a little bit drunk. And when someone who's obsessed with evolutionary biology is a little bit lit, I mean, he wasn't wasted.
Yeah.
But he had enough booze in him to have a little extra excitement.
I have never seen a science correspondent be so excited about bats or birds. Everything we spoke about over dinner related somehow to bats and birds. He was what I would call effervescent. And I didn't know, I'm really bad at spotting people who are drunk. And you just I just thought this guy's amazing in person.
He wasn't drunk. He was a few drinks in, I'll say.
Merry.
He was very merry. A science person merry is a sight to behold for anyone who... just go to your local university bar and
get them hammered.
Get them hammered and ask them about bats and birds, I think, and you'll have the same experience.
He was so effervescent, and he was brilliant, and very good-looking man as well.
One great disappointment, as I understand it, was that you did not get to see a raccoon in Toronto. Everyone had promised you, maybe it was just too cold because it was snowing and stuff.
So correct. Everybody, like the first sort of questions people asked me was, have you seen a raccoon? Have you seen a raccoon? And I couldn't work out. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was an inside joke, being in Toronto. But actually, I asked you recently and you said, yeah, they're kind of everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And they're quite aggressive, right?
And they're like a forbidden panda because they're so cute you want to go and pet them. And they're so used to people that they're somewhat approachable.
Okay.
But once you get you say meters, not feet. Once you get 3 meters away, then the Jekyll, the hide, the hissing comes out.
And will they jump you and scratch you?
I mean, they're aggressive. Yeah, you don't want to mess with them.
And they've got little bandit faces. They look cute, right?
They do look adorable.
Speaking of which, my friend, I am not only the foreign correspondent, but I am the chief institution here of bringing raccoon news, my friend.
All right, let's go to Hanover County in Virginia and discuss a raccooned bandit, a literal bandit who broke into a booze store and ransacked the place. Everyone calls them trash pandas, but this raccoon was acting kind of trashy with the booze, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is an inebriated raccoon. He was drunk, David. He broke into this liquor store, which we call off license in the UK. Liquor store does sound very funny whenever you say that.
Why do you call it an off license?
Because you needed to be licensed. Anyway, we're diverting subjects, but you need to be licensed to sell alcohol in the UK. So that would be like your pub or restaurant.
Okay.
But a store, which is kind of like your liquor store, is off license. So they have an off license to be able to sell liquor
off the premises.
Correct.
For consumption off the premises.
Nice, eh? Did you like that?
Yeah,
you learned something, David.
We got to be a little bit educational for regulatory purposes to qualify as a news show, and I think we just hit our bar. But back to Hanover County, this raccoon busts into a liquor store. When authorities are called, there are broken bottles and booze everywhere along the aisle, but no raccoon to be found.
Correct.
And then the cops went
to the bathroom and he was laid down flat, face flat, between the toilet and the sink. It is the best picture ever. Immediately you think that he might be dead, but he's not. He was drunk and sleeping. And I don't know how they sort of assumed he was drunk. They should have breathalyzed him.
Does the raccoon have to go to RAA, Raccoon Alcoholics Anonymous? Anyway, an official statement. This is an official police statement.
Correct.
I always wonder what these small county police departments are doing, but they say the officer safely secured our masked bandit and transported him back to the shelter to sober up before questioning. This is an official police comms person that made that statement.
Absolutely.
I feel like they're making law enforcement more fun than it actually is.
Well, police officer, do you think he should be up for commendation, services to raccoons?
And do you get thrown, that could make the drunk tank, when you get arrested?
Oh my goodness. There would be prostitutes, drug dealers, and a drunk raccoon all together, right?
I mean, I feel like those prostitutes and drug dealers could then sue for the rabies that they got. So it's maybe a liability. I would understand why they wouldn't put a raccoon in there.
Controversial, David. Why did you out the raccoon as having rabies?
Oh, true. Yeah, that's very raccoonist of me.
I think you might have to issue an apology to all the raccoon kind, right?
Yes, I should. But maybe not this raccoon, because after a few hours of sleep and 0 signs of injury, he was safely released back into the wild. Wow, it's a happy ending.
Well, definitely, but I feel that the raccoon might have developed a problem. And what if he goes back? That would be amazing. If he went back with a group of buddies, that would be a story and a half.
That could be a raccoon bachelor party. I mean, if you can look this story up, Hanover County raccoon, the raccoon passed out in the toilet between the toilet bowl and the trash, just arms spread out, just passed the out, I think it's a great photo.
Have you ever been that drunk where you've passed out on the toilet floor between a toilet and a sink, face down?
Yes.
Wow. So you and that raccoon have got a lot of similarities.
Well, I am over 6 years sober, and I would recommend to this raccoon the same path. It could be a wake-up call, waking up in the toilet next to a pile of your own. Don't want to say because it's too gross. As an alcoholic, there's a few moments in my life where that happened, and they certainly are my finest.
Well, this is a therapy occasion. We could get Gary Direnfeld, who could give him counseling.
Who's coming on later in the show.
Perfect. And Gary, me, and you could try and get the raccoon on air and find out what led him to this guy could be going through some serious problems.
Certainly could. Tony, it has been an absolute joy having you here in New York, having you in Canada in person. I've enjoyed every minute, even when we've bickered like an old married couple, because that's what close friends do. That is a real close friendship. Thank you for visiting. I hope you had a nice trip.
David, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you, Miranda, everybody I've met, everybody I stayed with, your brother and his husband specifically as well. I have felt so welcome here. I've had a really great time. And the opportunity to see people in Canada, the people that we work with that I only ever sort of see remotely was amazing. So I had a great time. I'll be back in the new year, I hope.
I'm just shocked that my brother's gay. Does his husband know?
No, nobody knows.
Okay, good. All
Your
right.
whole family doesn't know. I didn't think you knew. I think I might have let it out at dinner when they were holding hands.
And it was nice to have you here, like on the continent where our listeners are. And I'm sure people appreciated hearing about your journey.
I think so. Yeah, it'd be nice. And if anybody wants to come to the UK, let me know.
All right. Tony's address is 123 London Street, London, England. Tony, a joy it was. Tony 5 is our foreign correspondent. Thank you for being here.
Hey, good night. Bye.
Coming up after the break, singlehood. You know, when you're romantically alone, it's not something that feels the same your whole life. It's a journey that has phases for different age groups, and we'll tell you what those are in a minute.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Every holiday shopper's got a list, but Ross shoppers, you've got a mission. Like a gift run that turns into a disco snow globe, throw pillows, and PJs for the whole family, dog included. At Ross, holiday magic isn't about spending more, it's about giving more for less. Ross, work your magic.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where we apply quantum mechanical psychoanalytical astrotherapy to your problems.
Singlehood, being a bachelor or bachelorette, isn't a fixed state for one's life, but a shifting journey that can be shaped by age and your identity and other factors. Some long-term singles struggle while others adapt and thrive. We're going to talk about why with someone who's done research in this area. She's a PhD researcher in sociology at the University of Antwerp in Belgium, and her name is Elise Etoun. Elise, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Couples shift a lot in their lives. There's the honeymoon phase. If they're going to get married, there's the phase before they get married, after, kids, old age. They go through all these phases in life. So it shouldn't be surprising to us that people who are single go through phases too. But I think often we think of singles as this static thing, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. It's also something we're looking at in our research is like the singleton trajectory. And instead of just thinking about singles as people who are single for the rest of their life or just right now, the singleton trajectory looks at it as periods of singlehoods alternating with periods of a relationship. So it's definitely different phases we can go through and not something that is like set or static.
So what are some of the phases that folks who are single, whether for a long time or between relationships, like you say, what are some of the phases we go through?
Yeah, things we see nowadays is things like situationships or friends with benefits. It's not like straightforward having a relationship and being single. There are all these different kind of types of relationships that people experiment with and see what suits them best. And then eventually they might make the choice to settle down and be in a romantic relationship with someone. Or they might say, hey, I'm not ready, and that's fine as well.
So on to the study, you didn't just do like a one small sample set. You looked at a huge amount of data, a longitudinal approach, as it said. What do you think you were able to uncover looking at many studies that would have been maybe invisible in a one-time survey?
Well, what we did was look at people who were single for at least 9 years. And we looked at how their satisfaction with singlehood evolved because we were mostly interested, did it change? Did it remain the same? Was there some kind of acceptance over these 9 years? So something we kind of expected going into the study was that like this stereotype or the stigma, the longer you are single, the less satisfied you are with being single. And at first it started out like that. But when looking at different contexts, like for example, bringing in age, we noticed that it wasn't that straightforward, and that it does matter who you are and in which phase you are in your life, whether you're satisfied with the single status or not.
One thing I found interesting was one's desire for a relationship. So suppose I'm single for a long time or have long periods of singlehood, but I have this strong desire to be in a relationship versus someone who just doesn't. That's a predictor in how satisfied someone is with their life. I guess that's not surprising, but it's interesting to actually get the data to prove it. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, exactly. It's associated like people who are who indicated they have a desire or they want to be in a relationship. We noticed that they are significantly less satisfied with being single than those who indicated that they did not desire such relationship. So we also looked at it across the years over time, whether if desire remains, whether your single with satisfaction changed like over time. That was something that wasn't significant. So it's not that you can say the longer someone indicates of having a desire, like being kind of desperate, you could say. We expected that to really have an influence on your single satisfaction. Unfortunately, we found no significant results on that, like in either way. But it is important to notice that having a desire really relates to having less satisfaction with being single.
Interesting. Do people sometimes adapt in old age, though? For example, I expected in my life to be coupled up. I'm not. I find myself a little bit older. Am I likely to adapt, or am I likely still to be unsatisfied as a single person?
Yeah, that's something we saw in people of older age, that we expect them to adapt because, well, in older age, you might have the acceptance towards your single status. You might have the feeling, okay, I don't have these life stages or life tasks I need to fulfill. For example, like in middle age, we see people wanting to settle down, start a family. So there's this thing of a biological clock, which kind of disappears in older age. And also, like companies, with the companies, is this exception is having a lot of friends and family, for example, that buffer the lack of having a partner. So the need to have someone romantic in your life kind of fades away. I'm not saying it disappears completely, but it might be buffered in some way.
Interesting. Was there any difference, however small, in the genders between people who identified as men, women? Was that something that you saw?
Like a very clear difference between men and women overall, no, unfortunately. But what we did see was with men and women who indicated to have desire, that over time, women had a steeper decline in their singlehood satisfaction, where men more or less remained stable.
Interesting. Now, people who have this idea that they have singlehood identity, like someone who's happy being single, who says they don't want to be in a relationship, who wants to structure their life alone, how do they fit into your survey or your findings?
Well, I think that's a really interesting group to look at. These are people who, indicating to have no desire to be pleased with life the way it is. Maybe they don't feel pressure from the outside world, like looking at people in your environment, seeing how they are coupled with people. Or maybe just focusing on yourself, developments, a career or jobs, or school, education. So yeah, of course, these people exist too, and it's not like they don't matter at all. It's just something that is more rising nowadays, but not as prevalent as like the overarching idea of wanting to be in a couple.
Maybe you didn't cover this, but you could speculate. Do people in that group generally identify as happy, fulfilled throughout their lives, or not?
Well, that's something we didn't look at it in detail, but we did see that those indicating not wanting or desiring a relationship were happy with being single. Like a next step that would be very interesting to look at is whether life satisfaction also, or how life satisfaction correlates with this singlehood satisfaction. But for now, we know that they are more or less fine with being single. Yeah.
Well, Elise Hoen is a PhD researcher in sociology at the University of Antwerp in Belgium. Elise, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your research with me. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, let me tell you about the Last Show podcast. First off, to find it, head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's .pizza, not .com. That's our website. There you can find out more details of the podcast, or just search David Cooper Last Show in your favorite podcast app. Once you've located it, subscribe, and on it you can catch interviews you loved again, listen to whole nights you missed, or tune into some of our bonus content that's on the podcast only, stuff you won't hear on the regular radio program. The Last Show podcast. You're not going to want to miss it. Coming up after the break, the I'm fine reflex. What is it? Have you ever had a loved one try to get you to go to the doctor because you're not quite feeling great and you put it off forever? Because you're fine. This is something men can do as they age, and we'll discuss it as we do Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday up next.
Want to be part of the Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the personal price plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always The Last Show with David Cooper.
Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. We are joined by therapist, social worker, friend, handsome man, and deli food enjoyer, Gary Direnfeld, who is in Keswick, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
And you drove all the way to Thornhill, Ontario, Canada. What is that, an hour and a half?
An hour.
An hour.
An hour of straight highway driving. It is all on the highway.
All right, well, you're making it seem easier than it was. But you drove all that way to meet me and our foreign correspondent, a man who works on the show, Tony Five, for a traditional Jewish deli meal.
Oh, was it wonderful?
We had smoked meat, I believe.
Yes.
Healthy food, very healthy food.
Yeah, pastrami.
It was nice to meet you in person. I know I've already met you in person, but we had such a nice time.
It was so good getting together. Yes, we've met one other time in person. But let's face it, we're old kindred spirits together. We've worked together for years. I love you. So it was, and it was also such a pleasure meeting Tony Five. He is such a nice guy and sense of humor. Mm-hmm. Oh, he was adorable. I enjoyed kissing his bald head.
I was just looking at that picture. And I know the listeners are thinking, I don't care that two people ate a sandwich. What's in it for me? I'll tell you what's in it for you. Sitting next to us while we were having this sandwich, there was another family. The family's probably in their 40s, 50s, but the grandmother was there. I believe she was 84 years young.
I thought 88.
88 years young. And
Something
they asked me where I lived. I said New York. And then they mentioned the mayor-elect, Mamdani, who I don't think is too controversial a figure, but there are those among us that do. And the granny was about to say something so inappropriate, like probably racist, we may never know. The daughter stopped her, and it was kind of funny, but also a little ugly. And here's what I want to talk about quickly. How do you deal with that family member who's just like so inappropriate and maybe a little bit older, maybe they're like a great aunt or something, and you got to hang around them, and they're just going to spew like nonsense. Maybe they got sucked down the conspiracy theory hole during COVID. Like, how do you deal with something?
They're
unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
Now, a small fraction of us can find horrible behavior like that hilarious, but for most, especially when it's like your family and not just a stranger for 30 seconds, it can be tough.
Let alone in public.
Yeah. What's your advice for dealing with someone like that?
Actually, I thought that family handled her in the situation totally well. They remained gracious. They maintained a sense of humor. They, while not being apologetic, they were saying, well, that's my mother's views. So they were distancing a bit and explaining, that is how she is. In a way that, although distancing, saying, we're not the same, they were still very accepting of her. And so, quite frankly, I thought it was managed really, really well in that context. I gotta say, I love that grandmother as well, because she looks at us and says, you get to my age, there's a role reversal. I'm no longer the parent with my daughter. She parents me.
It was true. The daughter was censoring the mother so she didn't offend everyone in the deli. It was kind of sweet. I'm sure the views that would have come out of her mouth had her daughter not have stopped her would not have been sweet. But you're right. It was managed well, and a little bit of humor mixed in just to make everyone, all the strangers around, comfortable. It was well done.
Yet they maintained their calm regardless of where she was going with any of this stuff. And because of that, there was never an escalation of concern.
No, and our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, was trying to egg it on. She was like, well, what were you? He was like, what were you going to say? But it never really.
He's such an instigator. We needed that whole thing to be recorded so that could have been today's episode. It was interesting.
It certainly was. That is not our topic, though. Our topic. You had a heart attack. You had a 75.
No, not a heart attack. Angina. Yeah, so my heart is still intact and not damaged.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this was many years ago, and you had a 75 bypass surgery.
A 75 bypass.
105th bypass? I mean, you had every bypass you can have. What was it, quadruple?
It was a quadruple. Yeah. That's getting up there for sure.
And now more recently, maybe something going on with your kidney function, which I'm sorry to hear about.
Thank you. So I have a good physician. I'm lucky here in Canada. I have access to healthcare. I'm not going to go bankrupt over it. And my physician sends me for blood testing at least every 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there. Part of that monitoring in the last 3 to 6 months has shown a decline in my kidney function by virtue of the blood test. And it got to a point where, you know what, this is now looking like an anomaly. We see how it's trending. You do have kidney disease by the numbers that are presented. We just don't know what that disease is. Who the hell wants to hear that?
Nobody. And what I want to talk about here is you get the testing.
Yeah, but absolutely.
You're kind of an outlier amongst men, especially of a certain age, of which I am now entering that age, and I see myself doing what we're going to discuss here. I want to call it the I'm fine reflex. For example, colon cancer runs in my family. My great uncle had it. I believe my grandfather had it in the end, in addition to some other stuff. And so I'm need to be tested young.
Yeah.
And I'm as I turn 40, it's a little younger than for most people, but I got to go for that colonoscopy. And my girlfriend Miranda keeps saying, you need to go. And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I'll do it in a month. I'll do it when I turn 40, which is in 6 months now. But that reflex of not wanting to go to the doctor.
Well, and it's a normal reflex because let's face it, we have a sense of loss of dignity, and they're putting things where we don't necessarily want them put, and we have to prep for these procedures, particularly a colonoscopy. Been there, done that. So men have, from my perspective, and I think the research bears this out, have a harder time with that than women.
And there's a lot there. There's minimizing symptoms, thinking that you're kind of strong and you can deal with a little bit of pain or you can deal with a little bit of whatever. There's this feel of vulnerability that you'll get diagnosed, and then that's weakness. There's a lot to unpack here.
It goes against that sense of masculinity that I'm all tough. I can take anything. So I was diagnosed on the virtue of the blood tests with kidney disease. And I get this email from my physician explaining that and then saying often high blood pressure follows or is combined with kidney disease. Take your blood pressure. I hadn't taken it in about a year because I had been fine. And now I start taking it, holy mackerel, 140, 150 over 90, 95. From what was, for me, normal. I was a solid 120 over 80 for a couple of years there. So I don't know if my blood pressure spiked because of the diagnosis of kidney disease. But listen, I went and got an ultrasound. I drank a bucket of water before going. I thought I was going to explode. Also at my age, my bladder doesn't empty as fully and easily as it used to.
Are you admitting to incontinence on the air, Gary?
So I'm lucky in that so far, not incontinence, but I take a long time to pee.
We're here with Gary Direnfeld. It's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. I think that's a perfect time to take a quick break. We're talking about the I'm fine reflex. This reflex that we see in men, but probably women too, but we're talking about men to avoid going to the doctor. And I want to discuss this doctor avoidance negative feedback loop. This idea that you delay a checkup and then you get anxious that it's been too long and it's not going to go well and the doctor's going to judge you and they're going to say, why didn't you come back sooner? And so why go when that's going to happen? And then the time amount becomes longer. And then the reason to procrastinate becomes greater. It's this negative feedback loop. And I promise you, if this sounds familiar to you, you can break out of it. We'll be back with Gary Direnfeld in a minute.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Doug. Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu, is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
We work hard to strike the right amount of intelligence and ignorance. The last show with David Cooper.
I'm fine is what you should not say when your partner says, go to the doctor, get a checkup. You haven't been in 7 years. I want to make sure you're healthy. Men sometimes avoid getting their health checked up on, and it can lead to problems. And we're here with therapist Gary Direnfeld on Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday to discuss this and try to get you to get off your procrastinative, is that even a word? Your procrastinatory butt and head off to the doctor. Gary, welcome to the show.
Yeah, and I like that you, prior to the break, spoke about that negative feedback loop. Mm-hmm. If you haven't been for a while, then you are fearful of what's going to happen, and that may cause you to stay away more, creating a bigger problem for yourself. When I got the email that said you have kidney disease, but it was unspecified, and I don't know what the hell the disease is, you want to bet that I was anxious. Mm-hmm. Unlike some of my male friends and colleagues, I lean into it. I don't run from it. So I get in touch with my doctor. I go and get additional blood tests. I got the ultrasound of bladder and kidney. Look, spoiler alert, I'm okay. I met with my doctor. Spoiler alert. Okay. I'm okay. Well, having said that, just as prostate cancer, or not prostate, I'm sorry, colon cancer runs in your family, severe kidney disease runs in mine. So I will be going for additional testing. The likelihood is I am okay, but at least I will have a baseline of tests that if I start to deviate from that, we'll see a trend.
I didn't go to the dentist for 10 years, Gary. So this
Oh,
feedback loop of it's been too long,
Yeah.
it's going to go badly, the dentist is going to be mean, so I'm not going to go. And then when I don't go, it's been even longer. This negative feedback loop. The way I got out of it was I just called the dentist. I asked some friends, is your dentist nice? Is your dentist nice? I called her. I said, it's my first appointment in 10 years. I don't want to hear it. Let's just don't tell me anything. Just anything positive, let me know. Anything not positive, don't let me know. I'm going to come in here, and then in 6 months when I come back, or in 4 months, because they want to, then lay it on me. Then be the guilt-tripping dentist that you need to be. I now go every 6 months. I floss twice a day. I brush 3 times a day. I'm back on the horse, and my dentist says my teeth are fine after getting 4 cavities filled, which is actually not too bad considering. But I'm back on the horse, and it's never too late. And I also want to say one thing. A lot of people don't want to get checked up on because they're worried something will go wrong, and that'll be seen as unmasculine or weak. But I have a dear friend right now dealing with cancer, and he's getting treatment, and he's getting weaker, and, it's going okay, but it's rough. And I see that as the most masculine thing in the world, to do that with courage and poise, and deal with that fear and deal with your loved ones who are worried about you on a daily basis. Nothing is more masculine. Nothing is more courageous. Nothing is more brave and strong than going through that. It's way more, than just avoiding the appointment and not finding out kind of thing.
Yeah, in my post about all of this today on my Facebook page, I ended my post by saying, man up, take it on, be courageous. And that is the message that I want to give our listeners. That is the message I want men to hear. If you want to be here for the long term, take care of yourself now. Invest in your health. Things are so much worse for men in particular because they do tend to delay. So when they do go, their issues are more severe, and it's harder to treat, and the interventions can be more nasty. Be on top of it. Be a person who, at least annually sees their physician. And if something comes up, you're welcome to be afraid. My wife and I discussed that. I said, I got this email. I said, now I'm worried. And she said, so is she. But you know what? That is what brings my wife and I closer. Because we share those feelings between ourselves, we support each other, and we face it head on.
This next one I'm totally guilty of. The role of your partners. It's kind of unfair for a dude to make his wife or his husband or his partner manage and guilt and nag over health appointments. You shouldn't just be going to the doctor because the person who goes to bed next to you at night, guilt trips you all the time. That's an unfair emotional burden for them. That's an emotional labor that you're making someone else manage your health. I have been guilty of this. In some ways continue to be, but it's not a great, maybe me saying it out loud today might help go a little bit of a way. I got to get a colonoscopy, and my girlfriend's like, you better do this by the time you turn 40. I should be kinder to her and just manage it without her bugging me.
And I get asked, particularly by the partner, most often women, should I nag my partner? Should I nag my husband? And I got to tell you, it's a tough question to answer, and it depends on the quality of the relationship, because some relationships can't take it. And other relationships, you can break through. So if you are worried about your spouse seeing the doctor, and quite frankly, this is a knife that can cut both ways. If you're worried about your female partner, your male partner, your transgender partner, if you're worried about your partner, express a concern. Tell them, I love you. And I worry about you. You haven't seen the doctor, and my concern is that something bad could happen, and it could be too late. Please do something. So you're not saying, why aren't you going? You're not coming across with anger and hostility. If you're going to, in a sense, nag, again, that could be any gender. If you're going to do that, come from a place of love and concern, not hostility.
I would say on the grand taxonomy of quote unquote nagging, probably don't is the best. The middle ground is do it from a place of love and not a place of hostility. And then perhaps the worst kind is the kind of angry, aggressive, mean, guilt trippy,
Then people concentrate on your delivery and not the message that you're trying to deliver. And you get tied up in ego and who can tell who what to do versus where the issues really lie.
This last one, this mindset, and I'm fortunate enough not to have this mindset, but it's very procrastination adjacent. This mindset of what I don't know can't hurt me.
Oh,
what
that's
say
a
you
good
to
one.
someone who is avoiding going to the doctor, hasn't been for 15 years, maybe has a weird ache in their internal body, but just kind of ignores it every day? What I don't know can't hurt me. What do you say to someone who says that?
It's the magical thinking of childhood. I remember as a maybe 3 or 4-year-old, I would hold up my hand in front of one eye and look forward and think, oh my goodness, I can see through my hand, right? If you've ever had that experience, do it now. Those at home, hold your hand in front of your eye and look forward. You have a sense that you're literally looking through your hand. This is magical thinking.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to if it isn't diagnosed, it can't be there. If I don't go, it can't bother me. Disavow yourself of that magical thinking. It is just another form of bias that keeps you from getting checked out. The whole purpose of today's show really is that you be well. At the end of the day, that's all we want. Be well. Now, look, to be well, you may have to deal with health issues. Address them. Address them today.
Gary Direnfeld, what a joy it was to have you on the program. Thank you for being here.
All the best.
That concludes Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday, which we're doing on a Wednesday. The name of the thing is Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday, but it is also Wednesday night. Gary Direnfeld is a social worker, a therapist, but he's retired, so not taking clients. Coming up next, the way you smell can signal to people how dominant you are in your personality. Stick around for details of this wild scientific finding in a minute.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
Smart, sharp, and slightly unhinged. Late Night's Fresh Perspective. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Are you someone who wants to smell more dominant? Well, it's easy. Just crank up your testosterone, because get this, new research suggests that your body odor might be whispering clues about your status and your power long before you ever say a word. That's right, your BO, when you have higher testosterone, the scent of it can be perceived as more dominant. How does this all work? Well, we're here with psychology researcher from the University of Victoria who has worked on this, Marlise Hofer. Marlise, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
What got you interested in human sense and communicating social status through sense? I know animals do this, but I never thought humans did.
Yeah, I think what got me most interested in it was the fact that you don't realize how much you're using your sense of smell when you're communicating or just navigating your daily life. So, in general, we find that the human sense of smell is not very well understood, and people generally don't recognize how much information they gather through their noses, or actually how impactful it can be when they lose their sense of smell.
It has happened to me where I get a whiff of someone and then I'm like, whoa. At the risk of sounding a little gross, I've gotten a whiff of someone, I'm like, wow, you are an attractive individual. But I've never gotten a whiff of someone and thought, wow, this is a dominant person.
I'm not surprised to hear that, because most of the time, scent cues are processed unconsciously. So most of the time, we don't recognize the information that we're getting through our sense of smell.
But what exactly would dominance mean in this study? Like,
That's a
how
good
would it differ
question.
from something like, I don't know, prestige or something like that?
That's a good question. So it depends how you measure it. Dominance can have a wide variety of meanings, but the way we measured it is we differentiated it from prestige. And in evolutionary theory, it's sort of there's two ways to gain social status, through dominance or prestige. And dominance is more, it's generally a little bit more negative. It's trying to gain control through power. So we asked questions like, this person might like to have power over others or use aggression to get their way. So those would be ways that you would have power through dominance. And prestige is the more, I guess, it's a little bit more culturally sensitive, but it's when you gain status through other people give you status willingly because they want to learn from you because you have skills that are better than others in your group.
At the risk of oversimplifying it, one might be by having huge muscles and the other might be through winning like a Nobel Prize or something.
Yeah.
Now, walk us through testosterone. I know how it can influence one's behavior, but
Mm-hmm.
how can it influence my odor?
I don't exactly know the link between how testosterone is within your body influencing odor. So what we found was that, I mean, we know that testosterone plays a role in status-related behaviors, and we wanted to see whether testosterone levels or some other thing that co-varies with testosterone levels, so some other scent cue that co-varies with your testosterone levels, might provide these subtle olfactory cues shaping how we perceive social status or dominance. So we didn't go in and find sort of the pathway that takes testosterone to changing the way that your body odor smells, but we just found that men who have higher testosterone levels, that's linked to them being perceived as more dominant by others.
Well, let's get to how you found these results. I love, and side note, I love how you did this. How did you collect the scent from your subjects?
Yeah. This was a time-consuming process, and I would say for our subjects, probably not the most pleasurable process. We had just over 70 men function as scent donors, we called them. So they wore a cotton t-shirt that we provided them for 24 hours as an undershirt or while they were sleeping just as a shirt. And they had to refrain from a lot of activities they might normally engage in because we thought they might alter their sense of smell or their natural body odor. So what they really didn't like is they did not like that we didn't let them wear deodorant for the 24 hours beforehand and for the 24 hours that they were wearing the shirt. We also asked them not to drink alcohol, not to eat several foods like curries and things that might change how you smell. And they weren't allowed to do heavy exercise. So things like that. So we had just a protocol that was based in what past research has said might affect the way you smell. And then we collected the shirts after 24 hours. We froze them. This is, again, something that past research says that you can preserve scents through freezing at a certain level of coldness. And then we had both men and women come into the lab in groups of 10. And they were same-sex groups of 10, so we'd have like up to 10 women come in, for instance, and we set up smelling stations around our laboratory. So they would smell approximately 20 shirts in one session, just so they didn't run out of steam. They didn't smell all 70 shirts. And they would go to each shirt and sort of rate some things about the person. And so we told them, this is weird. We understand this is not a normal thing to be doing, and telling us whether you think this person wants to have control over other people is you likely not going to know, but just do your best to guess. Just imagine the person who wore this shirt. We told them it was a man that wore the shirt, and tell us what you think about them.
And on the 70 scent donor side, you gave them surveys to try to figure out these things about their lives and I guess measured their testosterone and stuff.
Right, yeah. So when they when they picked up the shirt, we had them come sort of in a window between 9 and 11 a.m. because there's diurnal variations in hormones and testosterone. So we had them sort of come in the morning, and they gave us a saliva sample through passive drool, which means they basically drool into a little salivette.
I love that this research is like funded by a university and in an academic journal. It's so fun. Okay, so we got the donors, we got the people in groups evaluating their stank, and that's an academic term, stank. You can use that in your paper.
Okay, I'll add that.
What were some of the big findings from it?
The main finding really was the one I mentioned earlier, was just that men's testosterone levels were linked to how dominant they smell. We didn't find any relationship between their testosterone levels and the ratings of perceived prestige. So we were kind of looking at both. The other finding we had was that higher testosterone levels, so men who had higher testosterone levels, were also rated as having a higher intensity of body odor in that 24 hours. So it's not like they have different hygiene practices and so they smell differently, because I didn't mention this, but we also gave them unscented body products like soaps and hair wash so that they should use before putting on the shirt. So it was really just in 24 hours, the amount of body odor you produce or the smell of it is a higher intensity if your testosterone level is higher. But we controlled for that intensity level in our analyses, and we still found that the original result persisted, which was that testosterone levels were linked to higher dominance perception.
And how strong is the link? Like if I'm a high testosterone individual, I don't shower, I don't, eat 10 cloves of garlic. How can I count on people smelling me and perceiving me this way, or was it a small link?
It was very small, and it really doesn't mean that people can clearly smell social status in everyone around them. It's rather sort of starting to uncover that scent does contribute in a subtle way to how humans communicate. And it's one of many. So I would say in an everyday interaction, context and other sensory cues like social cues or how they look or act are likely to play a much larger role in the overall perception of dominance than scent.
Is there a next frontier for scent research? You've mentioned it's largely unmapped. Are there other ways in which our scents can give cues about who we are to others that you might be interested in looking into, or that other researchers are looking at right now?
Yes. It is sort of an emerging body of work. There isn't a lot of research, but after the COVID-19 epidemic, there has been more funding that's sort of come and more interest because a lot of people lost their sense of smell, which was distressing. So there's been a bit more research recently. What we do know in this realm is it's sort of some of this we had before this study. So what motivated this work was we know that human body odors do carry a wide range of social information. So things like emotional states we can perceive. The strongest researched are anxiety and fear. We can pick those up through body odor from other people that are experiencing those emotional states. Also kinship and health status. So health status would be we can detect subtle differences between people who are healthy versus sick. So we just wanted to know whether this extends to perceptions of social status in this study.
Marlise, thank you for sharing this research with me. It's a fascinating field, and I appreciate you going over your paper with the show.
Okay, thanks so much for having me. It was really a nice time.
Marlise Hofer is a psychology researcher at the University of Victoria. We all have a friend with a romantic partner who looks, thinks, and acts just like them. Why does it happen? A new study says it might be built right into your genes. Details up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
For those who know that questioning everything includes questioning this show's existence. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Why do some people end up with romantic partners so similar to themselves? Well, a new study suggests it might not be culture, coincidence, or how you grew up, but it might actually happen across generations. You inherit both who you are and what you like from your ancestors. I'm here with someone who studied this and done psychology research with this work at the University of Queensland in Australia. Her name is Dr. Kaitlyn Harper. Kaitlyn, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'll take any opportunity to talk about my PhD work.
Good. Well, let's start with a definition, because as I read a summary of your paper, I just stared at this word for like 100 minutes. Assortive mating. What does it mean, and why is it a common practice, both for us, but also for animals?
Yeah, so I'd say that most people would actually be familiar with the idea of assortative mating, even if they don't call it that. Have you seen the game Siblings or Dating?
Oh boy. I love that we're starting there. I have not, but I already love the premise.
Right. So the idea is that you're shown photos of these couples and you have to guess, are they related or are they dating? And it's notoriously difficult because so many couples look like they could be related, right? Because of how similar they are. And that's basically what assortative mating is. It's our tendency to pair romantically with people who are similar to ourselves, not just physically, but also personality, lots of demographic things like age, education level, socioeconomic status. And yeah, like you said, it's really pervasive. We see it in humans, in animals. It's a really widespread effect.
I think naively, for people at least, we'd like to think, oh, it's their family wants them to date someone that's similar to their family, and it's a cultural value, and it has nothing to do with genetics. But that's not the whole story, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's one of those things. I mean, the idea of nature versus nurture is a very outdated question. It's definitely both. But here we're focused on, this genetic component rather than cultural influences.
So social forces aside, what are the genetic reasons, or what is the genetic component for me to select a mate that would be so similar to me in look, I guess?
Yeah, so the way this mechanism works is basically when people pair up, putting aside similarity for now, they're pairing up because their traits and their preferences match, right? So what you're looking for in a partner, that's what you pair with in a partner on average. So then when these people have children, they pass on essentially the trait from one parent and then the liking of that trait from the other parent. And so you end up with both. So the traits that you have match the preferences that you have for your partner.
And if I am a random person likely to mate like that, then my children are then likely to mate like that. And that's how it's been going on for many thousands of generations, even ancestors that wouldn't look like humans.
Yeah, exactly. It's a widespread kind of population level average effect.
And so to study this, did you do a computer simulation? Like, walk me through how you actually, as a scientist or a psychology researcher, firmly say that this is true, or firmly say we have great confidence this is true.
Yeah, so we like to never say the word prove.
Sure.
So yeah, I like what you said, that we're confident that this is true.
High degree of confidence.
Exactly. Yeah. So we did a computer simulation. So you can think of it just like The Sims. I did a lot of Sims as a child and as an adult as well, and in my research. So I've essentially programmed a simulation where there are these little agents or people in my simulation, and they have genes, and they have genes that influence their traits. They have genes that influence what they look for in a partner. And then I let them all pair up with each other based on who fulfills their preferences. And then they have offspring, they pass their genes on. And in this study, I watched that happen over 100 generations to kind of demonstrate this mechanism that I'm talking about.
Was it as exciting as it sounds? Like, was it hot and steamy watching the mating, or no, it's just computer simulation, just numbers on a screen?
Yeah, a lot of programming, a lot of code.
And so using that, you can kind of simulate the way that humans act, or that any population of animals act, and that's how you can come to these conclusions?
Yeah, exactly. The idea is that we have assumptions that we're baking into the model, and then we can see what outcomes happen from those assumptions. So in this case, our main assumptions are that traits are heritable, which essentially all quantitative traits we know are heritable, meaning that in some sense they're influenced by your genetics. The same with your mating preferences, what you look for in a partner. There's less real-world data on this, but the data that we do have suggests that that is also somewhat determined by genetics. And just that people paired up based on who fulfilled their preferences.
Now, we put the sort of social factors aside, the social forces of assortative mating, or mating where you choose someone similar to yourself. But if we look at them for a second, does it come up in any particular groups, like socioeconomic status groups or education levels? Did your findings find anything like that?
So not what we looked at, but there are definitely other existing explanations that look at things like that. So for example, social stratification, being this idea that basically society is kind of grouped into similar people anyway. So if you have a high education level, you're going to end up in a job with probably people of a similarly high education level to you. And we love finding love at work. So in that sense, you're likely to end up with someone similar to you just because those are the people around you.
So this is where the cruel stereotype of like royals having no genetic diversity because there's such a small group of them comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the models that you use are simplified, I imagine. Now, if you were to, like, how would they translate to real life? Like, how could you say this about people that are complex and there's billions of us and stuff? How can you kind of make that connection?
Yeah, so I think we have to be careful with models because of exactly that question. In our sense, what we're talking about more so is the pattern of results, I suppose, rather than trying to pin down specific values of things. So we know that with these ingredients, this pattern of results occurs, and we know that the ingredients that we plugged in are roughly true in reality. But in order to say, for example, like how strong this effect is or how much of assortative mating that we see can be explained by this, we would have to dig a lot deeper into real data.
Now, on the one side, you could say assortative mating creates lack of genetic diversity, a less healthy population. But on the other hand, like if our ancestors didn't do it, we wouldn't have formed like a subgroup and then a species. Like if we didn't do this, we might not be here as people to begin with. We would just all kind of be the same species, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of where our inspiration for this came from, was that it's part of speciation and that process, and that's been known for a very long time. So yeah, I guess it is important for our origins. What does it say about our future as a species? I don't know, but we're certainly thinking long timescales for that.
So the next time we see a couple where they look a little bit too similar and you're thinking, geez, you guys look like siblings, just know like they're important for human evolution for that to happen every now and again.
Yeah, exactly. It's just part of who we are.
Any other areas from your research that were particularly curious to you or that you were surprised by?
Not necessarily. I think we went in with this idea and we wanted to provide a proof of concept of that idea, and that's what modeling is really great for. We could go around kind of verbally explaining this mechanism as much as we want, but really the key thing was showing it happen.
And anything next? Any particular research area you want to investigate or any open questions from this you want to look into?
Mostly I'm going to be using this kind of simulation methodology for a broad range of things. So right now I'm actually looking about how researchers do research and doing simulations in that space.
Cool. Well, Dr. Kaitlyn Harper did this psychology research at the University of Queensland in Australia. Kaitlyn, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I will stop being so mean to my cousin whose wife looks very similar to him because of what I've learned from you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much.
Here's something to think on. What if your sexual fantasies actually say things about your personality? Well, a new study looked at different kinds of narcissism. Yes, there are different kinds, and found that they're linked to different kinds of sexy fantasies, from totally ordinary to surprisingly intense. After the break, we'll dig into what this research uncovered and what it might mean for you. And for any parents of small children or sensitive listeners, your discretion is advised, so stay with us. Juicy details in a minute.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you.
It's your last chance to score Cyber Monday mega deals. Shop up to 50% off plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Here's what I want to dive into. Some interesting research. Your private sexual fantasies might reveal something about your personality. Specifically, if you've got different forms of narcissistic traits, and we'll define those in a second, your fantasies, your erotic imagination, may be distinctly different based on them. And I'm here with someone who's done research in this area. Her name is Antonella Somma. She is a psychology professor at San Raffaele University in Milan, Italy. Antonella, welcome to the show.
Oh, wow. Hi, David. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Let's talk about your study. How did you get the idea to link forms of narcissism, like a psychological traits people have, and their kind of private sexual fantasies?
Yeah, I have to say that at least at a theoretical level, narcissism and sexual fantasies and sexual behavior have been related since a long time. But at a more empirical level, studies on these topics are more sparse. So we decided to focus on narcissism and different manifestation of narcissism and sexual fantasies. And yeah.
People throw that word around, especially on social media. He's a narcissist, she's a narcissist. But when psychologists actually look at this, how do you categorize it? How exactly would you define it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because we hear lots of information about narcissism, but when we study narcissistic features from a psychological perspective, we need to take into consideration different aspects. First of all, scholars have different conceptualization of narcissistic features. So there are different models, different theories, but there is one thing that is common to various models and theories, and this is the fact that there are different manifestations of narcissistic features. So we decided to focus on a classical distinction between narcissistic grandiosity and narcissistic vulnerability, but then we also considered malignant narcissism, which is a construct more, a description of narcissistic features more grounded in psychoanalytic theory, and it's a sort of severe form of narcissism, and it is related to aggression. And so, of course, it could be interesting to explore the relationship between sexual fantasies, sexual behavior, and this kind of narcissism. However, yeah, we also consider the distinction between grandiosity and vulnerability. And I have to say that when we hear something about narcissism, we usually hear information regarding grandiosity. So the sense of superiority, a sort of dominance, a sort of arrogance, and these kind of attitudes are related to narcissistic features. But there is also another form of narcissism, which is more related to negative feelings like anger, shame, envy, but also aggression and some suicidal thoughts or this kind of ideation.
Okay, so we've got the three. We've got grandiose, which is sort of like big ideas. We got vulnerable, which is more private and ruminating. We've got malignant, which is the worst kind. Let's get to the meat of it, the headline. How do we link these types of narcissistic traits to distinct sexual fantasies?
Yeah. One of the aspects that is common to different manifestations of narcissism is the role of fantasies. And so this is one of the reasons why we decided to focus on sexual fantasies, because fantasies represent a sort of common characteristic of these different forms, and fantasizing is related to daydreaming and is a sort of a substitute of problem solving in reality. So it's something that people eye on narcissistic features spend a lot of time in. And so we decided to focus specifically on sexual fantasies because they are usually studied in the context of crime, sexual assault, or very severe form of aggression related to sexuality, but we decided to focus on this characteristic in the general population. So the basic idea is that narcissistic features are a dimension, and so we all have some level of narcissistic grandiosity, vulnerability, but also malignant. And more or less 90% of people have sexual fantasies. And so it's a sort of common experience. And so we decided to characterize different sexual fantasies and then to relate them to different forms of narcissism.
So what were the relations? I've been, I think to me that's the most interesting part of the research. With malignant, with vulnerable, with grandiose, what sort of sexual fantasies are you showing if you have that type of narcissism in great amounts?
Yeah, the most interesting thing was that the more paraphilic sexual fantasies, so the so-called not normative sexual fantasies, if we want to use this kind of distinction, are related to narcissistic grandiosity and malignant narcissism, but not with vulnerable narcissism. So the first aspect is that the most relevant relationship was between grandiosity and malignant narcissism, and these kind of sexual fantasies, I mean those related to assuming power or relinquishing power, so power-related sexual fantasies are the most significant predictors of narcissistic features.
And an example might be like BDSM or things like this?
Yeah, exactly.
More broadly, based on your research, what do sexual fantasies reveal about our personality, especially as it comes to narcissism?
Yeah, I think that it's a sort of interconnected relationship. So our personality says something about our sexual fantasy, but also our sexual fantasy are related to our personality, and narcissistic features are related to power-related fantasies, both in terms of assuming and relinquishing power.
Well, Antonella, thank you so much for joining me on the program. I've enjoyed this chat and sharing your research with the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Antonella Somma is a psychology professor at San Raffaele University in Milan, Italy. All right, guess what? You're never going to guess it. The Last Show has a podcast. If you head to our website, www.lastshow.pizza, that's lastshow.pizza, not .com, you can find out details. You can subscribe. And if you subscribe, you can catch episodes of The Last Show that you missed. You can listen to interviews you loved again, or catch some of our bonus podcast-only content, stuff you won't hear on the regular radio program. Ooh, I might have piqued your curiosity there. One such bonus topic: did you know AI can't quite fake real people's rudeness when it talks to you? You jerk. So check out the Last Show podcast and give us a subscribe. Coming up after the break, ever wonder why some people just rocket up the career ladder while the rest of us are still figuring out the printer? Well, there is research that says the secret isn't working harder, it's acting more like an entrepreneur inside your company. What does that even look like, though? And how to pull it off without getting fired? We'll answer those questions up next.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria, or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
When the day is done, we're just getting started. The last show with David Cooper.
Do you want to get ahead in your career? Just act like an entrepreneur. Inside of big companies, it's the folks who spot problems, build something new, and make things happen that get ahead. People who act like entrepreneurs. Those are the people that get noticed, promoted, and paid, well, only if they play it right. I'm here with Alyssa Liang, who is an organizational behavior professor at the Hoen Business School at Washington University in St. Louis, who has done research on this topic. Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, David.
When I think of people in jobs that are just regular old employees, I guess I'm curious, what is entrepreneurial behavior in that context? What is it inside an organization?
So when we talked about acting like an entrepreneur, there are actually very specific behavior markers, such as, coming up with new ideas or going around questioning the status quo or observing the world with fresh eyes. And experimenting with these ideas. So these ideas or these behavior markers are actually new. They are actually from the best-selling book called The Innovator's DNA, yes.
Interesting. So kind of act a little bit disruptive, like kind of questioning things, don't just do things the way they're done because that's the way they've always been done.
Exactly. You got it right. It's kind of acting disruptive. And that is why, just going around acting like an entrepreneur and being disruptive may not always pay off for employees within the companies. Because if you work in an established firm, you can imagine being disruptive is not a behavior that people would like. So there's a condition that when you act like an entrepreneur, there's a condition through the mechanism, only through that mechanism you can, get payoff with these entrepreneurial behaviors.
Interesting. In some sense, you could annoy your coworkers, or you could impress and make your coworkers curious about what you're trying to do and make things happen. How do we know which one we're doing? How do I make sure if I'm acting disruptive, it's going to be perceived well in an organization?
So we did a study exactly to examine this question. First, we conducted a field study with about 600 employees working in Fortune 500 companies. So what we found is that those people who act entrepreneurially and also channel these behaviors to actually start an internal venture for their organizations are more likely to get promoted and more likely to receive higher salary, especially in bigger organizations. So translate, you cannot just go around and poke holes and behave asking questions, but you also have to translate these behaviors into concrete outcomes, such as building a new venture for your company.
Interesting. So if you're walking around questioning everything, but then doing nothing, that is not going to be perceived well. But if you walk around questioning the status quo and work on projects to make it happen, that's where you're really going to excel.
Exactly. And the reason is, and we follow up that field study with an experiment. What we found is that those people who are entrepreneurial and who actually started an internal venture for their organizations are more likely to be perceived to have higher leadership potentials. So I think what we are getting into the underlying mechanism is that the act of starting new ventures is a signal of leadership potential. And that is why their career paid off. Yeah.
And starting new ventures isn't easy, though. How do I convince my coworkers to help me out if I'm just a regular employee?
And
or is that the $1 million question right there?
That is the $1 million question, right? And I mean, that is not within the domain of this study, but I think there are other studies suggesting that having positive relationships. So if you want to start a new venture within an organization, network plays an important role. And your political skills, the ability to influence people, to mobilize resources. So these are some of the important interpersonal skill sets to have
if you were to start new ventures within companies. And I think if you think about these skill sets, they highly reflect what we expect in leaders as well. And that is why they are really a signal of leadership potential.
Is that why you think turning an idea into an internal venture makes you look so good and makes you look so strongly to managers in large corporations, or are there other reasons as well?
Well, that is one the mechanism that we have tested. Some other hypothesis we have could be that maybe in this process of starting new ventures, you also gain deeper knowledge of certain or deeper expertise, or you have also sharpened your critical thinking along the way. So you actually have skill development gains. But unfortunately, we didn't test this mechanism in our study. But what we have tested, and it's quite rigorous in our study, is really starting new ventures. And what is really interesting in our data set is that we also try to test, does it matter if the ventures you start in company succeed or fail? Would that affect, whether you get promoted, you get higher salary? And what we found actually doesn't matter.
Really?
Yes.
You think that the success would be very important?
No. Actually, so the way we test it is that we use a very conservative measure. We ask employees if whatever they started within the corporation has exceeded, I think, $1 million or something like that, a very conservative measure as a proxy for success or not. And then we use to analyze as a moderator to just see whether their promotion or their higher salary is conditional on the success of venture. We didn't find any effect on that. And our hypothesis is that, I guess, like you said, it's already very difficult to start new ventures within a company, within an established organization. So that the ability that you are able to get it started already indicates your leadership potential. Whereas, success or failure is much less within our control.
So suppose I grow my people skills, I grow my ability to be political in the workplace well, I start a new venture. What could I hope to see? Like a higher compensation, a promotion? What are some of the benefits? Or in which cases will some benefits be conferred to me?
So let's break it down a little bit into statistics, right? So in our field study, we found, first of all, so we assess people's entrepreneurial behaviors with a very established measure. We ask them to self-report, assess themselves on these behaviors on a 7-point scale. What we found, interestingly, is that most of the people, at least most of the people that we sampled randomly, score very high on entrepreneurial behaviors. They are very entrepreneurial in nature. The average point is 5.17 out of a 7-point scale. However, out of these 600 or so respondents, only less than 40% of them start a business. So many of them are entrepreneurial, but few of them start a business within the company. But what we find is that 1 unit increase in starting a new venture, if they were able to start one new venture, it could increase the odds of them receiving the promotion by 13.9%.
Okay.
So start a new venture, almost 14% of increase likelihood of you getting promoted. And for compensation, we find that for people, particularly people who work in large organizations, they are more likely to get a salary bump compared to those in lower organizations. In fact, in lower organizations, we find that employees who engage in entrepreneurial behaviors and started a new venture, they did not experience this salary bump. And our thinking is that maybe in smaller organizations, they are more constrained with financial resources. So as a result, you cannot just pay people to reward them. And but on the contrary, we find that the promotion is more rapid in smaller organizations.
When you can't pay people, I guess just give them a better title.
Exactly. So I think that overall, there's benefits to a career, whether it's promotion or salary.
Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining me and sharing this tip for people's career. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Alyssa Liang is an organizational behavior professor at the Olin Business School at Washington University in St. Louis. That's a wrap on our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you heard something tonight you particularly liked, you can hear it again. Check out the Last Show podcast. Just search David Cooper Last Show in your favorite podcast app. We'll come up, and there you can subscribe. I'm David Cooper, and this was not the first show. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. I mean, you could be in a different place because radio.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Like, Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.